Hi everyone, I'm Shelly and you're watching There's No Place Like Home. I'm back with another video and today's topic is this. Something's conspicuously missing from the Olivet Discourse. As I've been reading through On Time by John Paul Miles for my online book club videos, I have been also reading through the Olivet Discourse in Matthew, Mark, and Luke. And as I have been reading through the Olivet Discourse, something occurred to me, something that I can't believe that I never realized before, but there is something very important that is missing from the Olivet Discourse. So I'm going to read through Matthew 24 and 25 today, and I'm going to see if you can figure out what it is that's missing. So before I start reading, though, let's just kind of get a basic framework for what most people think of as end times events. First, we would have the tribulation. And now there might be some differing ideas on the order of some of these events, but this is still the basic framework of what people think of when they are thinking about the quote end of the world. So, the tribulation, the abomination of desolation, the parousia or the second coming of Jesus, the 1,000-year reign, Satan's release, the war of Gog and Magog, and the resurrection and judgment. Okay, so with these things in mind, I'm going to start reading Matthew 24 and 25, and I'm going to try my hardest to not include any commentary. You have no idea how hard this is for me. Okay, Matthew 24, starting with verse 1. Jesus left the temple and was going away, when his disciples came to point out to him the buildings of the temple. But he answered them, "You see all these things, do you not? Truly I say to you, there will not be left here one stone upon another that will not be thrown down." As he sat on the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately, saying, "Tell us, when will these things be, and what will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age?" And Jesus answered them, "See that no one leads you astray. For many will come in my name, saying, 'I am the Christ,' and they will lead many astray. And you will hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you are not alarmed, for this must take place, but the end is not yet. For nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there will be famines and earthquakes in various places. All these are but the beginning of the birth pains. Then they will deliver you up to tribulation and put you to death, and you will be hated by all nations for my name's sake. And then many will fall away and betray one another and hate one another. And many false prophets will arise and lead many astray. And because lawlessness will be increased, the love of many will grow cold. But the one who endures to the end will be saved. And this gospel of the kingdom will be proclaimed throughout the whole world as a testimony to all nations, and then the end will come. So when you see the abomination of desolation spoken of by the prophet Daniel standing in the holy place, let the reader understand. Then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. Let the one who is on the housetop not go down to take what is in his house, and let the one who is in the field not turn back to take his cloak. And alas, for women who are pregnant and for those who are nursing infants in those days. Pray that your flight may not be in winter or on a Sabbath. For then there will be great tribulation, such as has not been from the beginning of the world until now, no, and never will be. And if those days had not been cut short, no human being would be saved. But for the sake of the elect, those days will be cut short. Then if anyone says to you, "Look, here is the Christ," or "There he is," do not believe it. For false Christs and false prophets will arise and perform great signs and wonders, so as to lead astray, if possible, even the elect. See, I have told you beforehand. So if they say to you, "Look, he is in the wilderness," do not go out. If they say, "Look, he is in the inner rooms," do not believe it. For as the lightning comes from the east and shines as far as the west, so will be the coming of the Son of Man. Wherever the corpse is, there the vultures will gather. Immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light, and the stars will fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens will be shaken. Then will appear in heaven the sign of the Son of Man, and then all the tribes of the earth will mourn, and they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he will send out his angels with a loud trumpet call, and they will gather his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. From the fig tree learn its lesson. As soon as its branch becomes tender and puts out its leaves, you know that summer is near. So also, when you see all these things, you know that he is near, at the very gates. Truly, I say to you, this generation will not pass away until all these things take place. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will not pass away. But concerning that day and hour, no one knows, not even the angels of heaven, nor the Son, but the Father only. For as were the days of Noah, so will be the coming of the Son of Man. For as in those days before the flood they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day when Noah entered the ark, and they were unaware until the flood came and swept them all away, so will be the coming of the Son of Man. Then two men will be in the field, one will be taken and one left. Two women will be grinding at the mill, one will be taken and one left. Therefore stay awake, for you do not know on what day your Lord is coming. But know this, that if the master of the house had known in what part of the night the thief was coming, he would have stayed awake and would not have let his house be broken into. Therefore you also must be ready, for the Son of Man is coming at an hour you do not expect. Who then is the faithful and wise servant, whom his master has set over his household, to give them their food at the proper time? Blessed is that servant whom his master will find so doing when he comes. Truly I say to you, he will set him over all his possessions. But if that wicked servant says to himself, my master is delayed, and begins to beat his fellow servants, and eats and drinks with drunkards, the master of that servant will come on a day when he does not expect him, and at an hour he does not know, and will cut him in pieces, and put him with the hypocrites. In that place there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Then the kingdom of heaven will be like 10 virgins who took their lamps and went to meet the bridegroom. 5 of them were foolish, and 5 were wise. For when the foolish took their lamps, they took no oil with them. But the wise took flasks of oil with their lamps. As the bridegroom was delayed, they all became drowsy and slept. But at midnight there was a cry, here is the bridegroom, come out to meet him. Then all those virgins rose and trimmed their lamps. And the foolish said to the wise, give us some of your oil, for our lamps are going out. But the wise answered, saying, since there will not be enough for us and for you, go rather to the dealers and buy for yourselves. And while they were going to buy, the bridegroom came, and those who were ready went in with him to the marriage feast, and the door was shut. Afterward, the other virgins came also, saying, Lord, Lord, open to us. But he answered, truly, I say to you, I do not know you. Watch therefore, for you know neither the day nor the hour. For it will be like a man going on a journey, who called his servants and entrusted them his property. To one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, to another 1, to each according to his ability. Then he went away. He who had received the 5 talents went at once and traded with them, and he made 5 talents more. So also he who had the 2 talents made 2 talents more. But he who had received the 1 talent went and dug in the ground and hid his master's money. Now after a long time the master of those servants came and settled accounts with them. And he who had received the 5 talents came forward, bringing 5 talents more, saying, Master, you delivered to me 5 talents. Here I have made 5 talents more. His master said to him, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a little, and I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master. And he also, who had the 2 talents, came forward, saying, Master, you delivered to me 2 talents. Here I have made 2 talents more. His master said to him, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a little. I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master. He also, who had received the 1 talent, came forward, saying, Master, I knew you to be a hard man, reaping where you did not sow, and gathering where you scattered no seed. So I was afraid, and I went and hid your talent in the ground. Here, you have what is yours. But his master answered him, you wicked and slothful servant. You knew that I reap where I have not sown, and gather where I scattered no seed? Then you ought to have invested my money with the bankers, and at my coming I should have received what was my own with interest. So take the talent from him and give it to him who has the 10 talents. For to everyone who has will more be given, and he will have an abundance. But from the one who has not, even what he has will be taken away. And cast the worthless servant into the outer darkness. In that place there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. When the Son of Man comes in his glory and all the angels with him, then he will sit on his glorious throne. Before him will be gathered all the nations, and he will separate people one from another, as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. And he will place the sheep on his right, but the goats on the left. Then the king will say to those on his right, "Come, you who are blessed by my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you welcomed me. I was naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me. I was in prison, and you came to me." Then the righteous will answer him, saying, "Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you a drink? And when did we see a stranger and welcome you, or naked and clothe you? And when did we see you sick or in prison or visit you?" And the king will answer them, "Truly I say to you, as you did it to one of the least of these my brothers, you did it to me." Then he will say to those on his left, "Depart from me, you cursed, into the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels. For I was hungry, and you gave me no food. I was thirsty, and you gave me no drink. I was a stranger, and you did not welcome me. Naked, and you did not clothe me. Sick and in prison, and you did not visit me." Then they also will answer, saying, "Lord, when did we see you hungry or thirsty, or a stranger, or naked, or sick, or in prison, and did not minister to you?" Then he will answer them, saying, "Truly I say to you, as you did not do it to one of the least of these, you did not do it to me." And these will go away into eternal punishment, but the righteous into eternal life. Did you take notice what was missing from the things that we went over that are the basic framework of people's beliefs about end times events? What did Jesus not mention in this very detailed prophecy of what was to come? Well, let's go through each one at a time and see if he went through it or if he went over this. The tribulation. Yes. Then they will deliver you up to tribulation and put you to death. And then later on down here it says that there will be great tribulation. So yes, tribulation, check. The abomination of desolation, check, right here in verse 15. Jesus is coming. Let's see where that is. Verse 30. Then will appear in heaven the sign of the Son of Man, and then all the tribes of the earth will mourn, and they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. So yes, so the parousia, check, that is there. So what was next on our list? The 1,000-year reign. Wait, was that in here? I don't recall Jesus mentioning a 1,000-year period where there was going to be total peace because evil would be bound. I don't see that mentioned here, this 1,000 years when he would be reigning on the earth with the saints. You know what? I come to think of it, I don't recall seeing anything about Satan's release from that time either, and how things were going to get really bad. Why wasn't that mentioned? Okay. Gog and Magog? I don't know. This is starting to get really confusing because we talked about the tribulation, the abomination of desolation, the parousia. What? Why are these things missing? Why is the war of Gog and Magog after the 1,000-year reign not mentioned here? Maybe he just stopped at the parousia. Maybe he just stopped at the coming and he was done with that prophecy, and that's something that was to be foretold later, like in Revelation 20. But I see a problem here. he did bring up the judgment, and with that, the resurrection. And some of you might say, well, he didn't specifically mention the resurrection in Matthew 24. Well, in John 5, Jesus' words, "Truly, truly, I say to you, an hour is coming and is now here when the dead will hear the voice of the Son of God, and those who hear will live. For as the Father has life in himself, so has he granted the Son also to have life in himself. And he has given him authority to execute judgment, because he is the Son of Man. Do not marvel at this, for an hour is coming when all who are in the tombs will hear his voice and come out, those who have done good to the resurrection of life, and those who have done evil to the resurrection of judgment." So what I see in the Olivet Discourse here is that if we're going to go over what Jesus said about the end times events, here's the basic framework of that time period: the tribulation, the abomination of desolation, the parousia or second coming, and then the resurrection and judgment. I want you to think about this. In this very detailed narrative telling people what was going to happen, Jesus did not mention a 1,000-year time period where evil was going to be gone, but then after that, there was going to be another really horrible event, even though he said in the beginning of Matthew 24, when it came to the tribulation, that there would never be anything like it again. But he didn't mention that there would be a 1,000-year period of peace and then another really devastating war. Why would he not mention that? I mean, he talked about the tribulation and the great tribulation. So he gave very much detail about this 7-year period. But he would fail to mention a 1,000-year period? I don't know. Do you think maybe it slipped his mind? I don't think so, but let's go to Daniel 12, 1-4, just to see if we can make sense of this. "At that time shall arise Michael, the great prince, who has charge of your people, and there shall be a time of trouble, such as never has been since there was a nation till that time. But at that time your people shall be delivered, everyone whose name shall be found written in the book. And many of those who sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, some to everlasting life, and some to shame and everlasting contempt. And those who are wise shall shine like the brightness of the sky above, and those who turn many to righteousness like the stars forever and ever. But you, Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book until the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall increase." Okay, so it seems like Daniel is on par with exactly what Jesus was saying in Matthew 24. Daniel mentions the tribulation, and then he says at that time there's going to be a resurrection and judgment. It doesn't seem that Daniel mentioned a 1,000-year period of peace where the saints were going to reign with Jesus. And then after that, there was going to be a period of time that was a horrendous period of time, because even Daniel says, such as never has been since there was a nation till that time. He was talking about shall be a time of trouble. And Jesus said, and there never will be again. So both Jesus and Daniel failed to mention a 1,000-year period of time? Completely missed it? And completely missed that not only after that, there's going to be another war? How was that not mentioned in the Olivet Discourse? Especially if you consider that what happened, according to the people who believe that there's this 1,000-year period and war of Gog and Magog afterwards, then they believe then the resurrection and judgment would occur. Why would Jesus miss something right in the middle of that? So what we have now are we have people who believe there's a tribulation, abomination of desolation, a parousia, then a 1,000-year reign, then the release of Satan, war of Gog and Magog, and then the resurrection and judgment. But then if we go by Jesus' own words, we have the tribulation, abomination of desolation, parousia, and then the resurrection and judgment. Could it be that Revelation 20 is just a symbolic recapitulation of events that were already mentioned elsewhere? I have been saying that for a while, and honestly, I can't believe that I never really took the time to notice that. Wait a minute. Why wouldn't Jesus talk about such a significant period of time and such significant events? Why would he just skip over that and go right to the resurrection and judgment when he gave so much detail about everything else? Well, I'll tell you why. Because I think those were just symbolic events, and the 1,000-year reign was just referring to the fulfillment of the apostolic age. That's all that I have for you today. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed and would like to hear more of what I have to say, I would love if you would do that. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave one down below. And if you like my work and would like to become a channel member, I will leave a link in the description box for that as well. Or you can just click on it right on my channel page. And I hope you have a great day.